Hello, my name is Toby. I'm your English language tutor. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at the comprehension passage section. Now, what is a comprehension passage? A comprehension passage is an article or a story given to you and you're supposed to answer questions on the passage. Now, there are different types of questions that we can get in the comprehension section. We have many types of questions, and the first type of question we're going to look at is the direct question. Now, what is the direct question? The direct question is one of the kinds of questions that you get under a comprehension passage. And the direct question is usually the first few numbers 1, 2, or 3, or number 1 and 2. They are the first few questions because they are usually the simplest. And they are the simplest because the answers are found in the passage. Your answer will definitely be in the passage. You do not have any answer outside. You do not have the answer to a direct question outside of the passage. I'll give you an example of a direct question. From the passage, what type of ruler was Hitler during his life? For you to be able to answer this question, you ought to have read that passage to know the kind of ruler that Hitler was according to the passage. Another type of direct question is, what 2 options did Hitler give for disposing his possession? Now, how do we answer such a question? What we will do is that we will go back to the passage and find the answer in the passage. The second type of question that we have under a comprehension passage is called the inferential question. Inferential question. Inferential is from the word infer. Now, what does it mean to infer? To infer means to imply. What does it mean to imply? When I imply something, I am saying something other than what is actually heard. I am expecting that you will reason out and answer my thoughts. I am expecting that you know some things, that you have some information that you can give me back to my implied question. And so, inferential questions demands that you reason out the answer. Most of the time, the answer is usually not in the passage. I'll give you 2 examples of inferential question. The first is, what does the author mean by referring to marriage as an institution? The answer to that question will not be in the passage. You have to think, you have to know what marriage is, and you have to know why marriage is called an institution. The second example is, in one sentence, state why you think the author uses the word happy many times in the last paragraph. What this means is that in this passage, the author used the word happy very many times in the paragraph. And then we're supposed to reason, to think, why would he use that word so many times? That will be our answer. The third type of question is what I'll call the figure of speech. In this type of question, we are given a figure of speech from the passage, and we're supposed to identify what figure of speech that is. I'll give you examples. Now, before I do that, I'll just quickly run through the common types of figures of speech that are usually extracted from a passage. The first type is the simile, the metaphor, personification, rhetorical question, hyperbole, and euphemism. Those are the common figures of speech that are usually asked under a comprehension passage. Now, a simile is a comparison between 2 things, 2 very different things, but you make your comparison with like or as. Metaphor is also a comparison, but you remove the word as or like. Personification is when you give human qualities to things that are not alive. Euphemism is when you say something unpleasant in a pleasant way. Hyperbole is an exaggeration. I will give you examples of all of these figures of speech taken from passages. Metaphor: the heavens were let loose. Now, what it means is that it rained very hard. The heavens were let loose. Another example is the mansion collapsed like a pack of cards. You will hear the word like in that sentence. The mansion collapsed like a pack of cards. It means that the mansion, the whole mansion, just collapsed easily without any trouble. It just collapsed like a pack of cards. The third type is the personification. And here we have the bright sun continued to smile. We all know that the sun is not alive. It cannot smile. But the sun here in this situation has been given the human quality of being able to smile. We move on to rhetorical question. If, for instance, I say, are you listening to me? Of course you're listening to me. That is how you can hear me. A rhetorical question is a question that does not need an answer. The other type of figure of speech is the euphemism. And here, the example we have is the inevitable quiet end. Now, this is referring to the death of somebody who we knew that this person was going to die. There was nothing that anybody could do about it. But euphemism says it in a pleasant way. And so it says the inevitable quiet end. Hyperbole is an exaggeration, when you exaggerate to make a point, to have an effect. And what we have here, the example we have here is tremendous idea. Tremendous. An idea cannot be tremendous. When something is tremendous, it's big, it's fantastic, it's beyond this world. And so when we say, oh, he had a tremendous idea, we are using a hyperbole in that situation. The next type of question that we can get under the comprehension is vocabulary question. Now, what happens here is that a sentence from the passage is extracted. A word from the passage is picked or underlined, and then you are supposed to find a word that if we remove the underlined word, it will fit in. You will put a word in that place, in the place of the underlined word, and it will fit in perfectly. I'll give you an example. They sent out white missionaries to replace them in Sierra Leone and in Nigeria under the aging black Bishop Crowther. Now, this sentence, the word that is underlined is aging. So what we are supposed to do is to look for a word that has the same meaning or has a close meaning to aging and put that word in that sentence. They sent out white missionaries to replace them in Sierra Leone and in Nigeria under the aging black Bishop Crowther. The word that I will put in there in place of aging is old. Now listen to me if I put old in that sentence. They sent out white missionaries to replace them in Sierra Leone and in Nigeria under the old black Bishop Crowther. So I've used old to replace aging. The comprehension passage is called the grammatical question. Grammatical question. If you've seen the past question before, you will see that some sentences are underlined. And then when you get to the section where you have your questions, the sentence will be read out. And then you are told what kind of sentence is this, or what kind of clause, or what kind of phrase is this, and what is its function. Now, usually, the types of phrases or the types of grammatical questions or the types of sentences that we are given, or the types of phrases, or the type of clauses that we are given are usually the noun phrase or clause, the adjectival phrase or clause, and the verbal phrase. Now, what's a noun phrase? What is a phrase? A phrase, first of all, is a group of words that does not have a subject and it does not have a verb in it. I'll give you an example. The children. The children. The children is a phrase. It doesn't have a subject. It doesn't have a verb. It's just a group of words. Now, I'll give you an example. The courage to fail is very cheap. That's the sentence that was picked. The courage to fail is very cheap. What was underlined is the courage to fail. How can I tell what kind of phrase is this? Now, the way to do that is to look at the qualities of a phrase. A phrase always has a head. It has a main word. Once you remove that word, the phrase becomes nonsensical. The courage to fail, it may not express a complete thought, but you cannot say that it is nonsensical. Now, if I remove the word courage, what do we have left? We have the to fail. That is, it doesn't make any sense at all. But let's put our courage back, the courage to fail. And so you ask yourself, what part of speech is courage? Is a noun. So then, that phrase is a noun phrase. So the way to find out any kind of phrase, particularly phrases, is to look for the head. The head is that word that once it is removed, the rest of the words in the phrase becomes nonsensical when we say them together. I'll give you another example. An instant alarm is taken from the sentence, the teacher raised an instant alarm. And what we have underlined is an instant alarm. This is also a noun phrase. Now, I'll try and find out what the head is. If I remove an, what do I have left? Instant alarm. Do I still make sense? Yes. If I remove instant and I have alarm left, do I still make sense? Yes. A person can ask me a question and I can answer with alarm. What did he raise? Alarm. He raised an alarm. But if I remove alarm and I have an instant, does it make sense? An instant. It doesn't really make sense. And so I know, therefore, that the head word in that phrase is alarm. And because the head of that phrase is alarm and it is a noun, that phrase is a noun phrase.